Hey guys, Guardian here, coming to you guys with a new deck profile, and yeah, we have Soul Saver Dragon. Yeah, Soul Saver got a new sort of deck build from the Miyaji Academy set, and you know what? When I was constructing this deck, this was actually a pretty interesting build. Don't think I've noticed many Soul Saver decks online anywhere, so hopefully this is a bit of an idea with what I came up with at least, and hopefully it can be inspired to be a bit better. I think the deck build is quite good overall. Of course, your main strategy is, of course, Soul Saver Dragon. So there's, your win con is pretty much already a deciding factor of what you're going to be doing a lot. You're going to be building the soul up a lot to try get Soul Saver skill off as much as you can. But I think the different ratios of the cards in the deck and the different pieces that I put in here are definitely interesting ones to note. So, yeah, we'll get stuck into the deck because I think this is an interesting build. So to start with the grade 3s, we of course have the main unit of the deck, Soul Saver Dragon. So for those that don't know, Soul Saver is a Soul Blast 5 act on Vanguard Circle. Then 6 of your units get 15,000 power until the end of your turn. Basically, you do as much as you can. All of your entire board gets 15,000 power essentially. So yeah, making massive column numbers, pressuring your opponent's hand size, provoke those PGs to come out and just get rid of them. Soul Saver will get that job done. So yeah, like I said, the goal is to just get this skill off as much as you can, but the cool thing is that Soul Saver does have a second skill, which is whilst on Vanguard, when it attacks, you can Soul Charge 1. So it does build towards its other skill as well, which is actually pretty good. So if you do end up riding it early game, it can still help you in the long run, basically. So yeah, we have, of course, 4 Soul Saver Dragon. And then next to Soul Saver, we have the new partner for Soul Saver. We have the 3 copies of Swordsman of the Explosive Flames, Palamedes. Now, Palamedes is pretty cool, if I have to say. I like how they made Palamedes a Soul Saver card. Like, it's really, when you read Palamedes, you can just tell, yeah, this is a Soul Saver card. Like, you want me to use this with Soul Saver. I can see this. So the cool thing is that Palamedes does have the Force Marker, so that is a nice, fail-safe if you do end up misriding or, well, misriding is sort of a harsh term in this deck because, if you do ride the Soul Saver or the Palamedes, both of them have ways of generating you soul. Palamedes says, whilst on Vanguard or Rearguard, when placed, Soul Charge 1. So you do get something out of it at the very least, and you're still getting that marker as well, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, the second skill of Palamedes is whilst on Vanaria, when a card is put into your drop zone from your soul during your turn, this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of the turn. And then it says in brackets, plus 25,000 power if you Soul Blast 5. So, yeah, it's kind of hinting towards something, isn't it? So, yeah, Palamedes can get pretty huge overall. So, I don't know, like, he's 13 in a minute. You'll get 25 from the skill after you use a Soul Saver, Soul Blast. So it'll be then, let's see if I can get my math correct here, 38,000. But then the 15,000 from Soul Saver will then bump that up to 53,000. And then if you've got an 8k booster behind Palamedes, that is, 53 plus 8, 61. Yeah, 61. But then that booster then also got the 15,000 from Soul Saver, so then that's, 76? 76? Yeah? I hope my math is right. But then you might have some force markers there, like 1 or 2 force markers, so that's 86, 96, Yeah, you can get some pretty ridiculous numbers with Palamedes, and I love it. I really, really love it. So, yeah, Palamedes is just solid as a card. The reason I'm only playing 3 of him, which some of you might be wondering, is because, yes, he's good with Soul Saver, but my problem with Soul Saver and Palamedes is that they're really late game cards. Like, you really want to be focusing more on these when your opponent's at like 4 to 5 damage roughly. 3 if you want to try push them. Because since you can get Soul Saver skill off multiple times, maybe they're at 3 and you think, you know what, I'm going to try pressure them to try push them for damage and then maybe try get some cards out of their hand as well. So that's an idea there. But I think the problem is that they don't particularly pressure that much in early game. So with that said, I'm going to move Palamedes to the side and actually get into the next card, which is going to be a little bit interesting. So I'm actually playing 3 copies of Alfred Early. So, yeah, spoiler alert, this is not a Blasterless list. I do have Blaster Blade in here, but it's a little bit weird because we're not using Blaster Blade in the way that we usually did, where the deck is like centralized around it. Whereas in this deck, we're actually using the Blaster Blade stuff with Alfred Early as sort of like an engine. Because you got to remember, Alfred Early can bring out Blaster Blade from your hand or your soul to the Reguard circle, and then you get to draw a card. So Alfred Early is actually a draw power card as well, which is something to take note of. But also, the Blaster Blade that you call out gets a 10k power buff, and you get that force marker, which you could stick on the Vanguard circle just to help both columns be pretty good numbers, So the reason I wanted to go for Alfred Early is because not only is it sort of a draw power card and early game pressure, but it actually synergizes really, really well with another new card we got from Miyaji Academy called Dream Painter, which allows us to recycle Blaster Blade. So it really synergizes very well with having multiple copies of Early, because that means we can recycle the minimal amount of Blaster Blades that we play in this deck, because we're not playing 4, by the way. But yeah, Alfred Early can just synergize pretty well with Dream Painter and help us draw cards and just help us have a good early game as well. So I think that's really important, As good as Palamedes and Soul Saver are together, you really want to preserve these cards and try use them towards the end game. And then for the early game, use your Alfred Early to pressure with some good numbers. So yeah. So that is my opinion on that. So we'll move Alfred Early to the side, but this is just my take on the deck. By all means, throw your suggestions down in the comments below if you have any other ideas. But yeah, like I said, this is just my take on it. So with that, we have the grade 2s next. We are playing the 4 copies of High Dog Breeder Akane. So yeah, pretty much the best grade 2 in the deck, if I'm being honest. Yeah, Counterblast 1 when it's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard. Call a Pongal from your deck. And then, of course, Pongal can get you some soul charges. So building that soul towards Soul Saver, getting an easy plus with Akane, it's great. There's nothing to complain about there, so you definitely got to play those 4 Akanes in the Soul Saver deck, which is kind of cool because I don't play Akane anymore in the other build, my Alfred build, so it's kind of nice to have like a second home for Akane to go into and fit really well into as well. So moving on, we have the next grade 2, which is actually another new card, Rendering Angel. So this card's pretty cool. It's pretty simplistic. So when placed on Reguard, you can call a grade 2 or less card from your hand to the Reguard circle, and if you called, this unit gets 5,000 power. So the reason that I like this is because of the way that Dream Painter works. So for those that haven't seen Dream Painter, I'll quickly show you. So this is Dream Painter. I'll try to get a focus on that. So yeah, the first line there says, when placed by a card ability. So you need to actually call Dream Painter through another card. And Royals, they have a couple of cards that do it, but not a whole bunch. But this added to the pool of cards that we can actually use to call cards through a skill. So yeah, Rendering Angel, like I said, pretty simple. It gets 5k by calling a grade 2 or less from our hand, but it allows us to activate the Dream Painter when we need to. And it's like, that's the thing with this card. It's the easiest way of doing it as well. We did get another grade 1 as well, which allows us to call stuff from our hand. But this is so much better just because it's so much more manual and, like direct sort of thing. You don't have to meet any sort of condition for it. You just have to just simply call it and then call something else. So really, really simple, but consistently allows us to get the Dream Painter skill to activate. So yeah. So that is Rendering Angel. And then the last grade 2 is going to be 3 copies of Blaster Blade. So yeah, only 3 Blaster Blades. So the reason for this is because, like I said, with Dream Painter in the deck, you can actually recycle your Blaster Blades with this card. And, it's one of the main things about this deck that I like is that everything synergizes with each other. So the Dream Painter can either put a card from the drop zone to the bottom of your deck that's a grade 2 or lower, or it can put it into the soul. So you have recycling power, you have the ability to put something back into the soul, and that's pretty cool because you can either do that for Soul Saver, or you can focus on Blaster Blade, put that back in the soul, and then calling it back out with Alfred Early as well. So that's pretty cool there. But the other nice thing about having Blaster Blade in the deck is that it does give us that option to potentially do the grade 2 rush. Because remember, we have Akane in the deck with Blaster Blade, so grade 2 rushing is still possible, and that's very important because, like I said, we want a good early game, and the fact that Blaster Blade can provide that with us and synergizing with Alfred early as well is just so nice. So I really like this lineup of having only 3 Blaster Blades because it synergizes with the Dream Painter, but also the Alfred early as well. So yeah, that is the grade 2s. So we'll swiftly go into the grade 1s, and I've been talking about this card a lot, but we'll go into it now. We have the 4 copies of Dream Painter. So yeah, this card is really cool. So like I said, the skill is, when placed from a card ability on rearguard circle, you may put a grade 2 or less card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck, or into your soul. If you put a card to the bottom of your deck, this unit gets 5,000 power. So the cool thing there is that if you don't need the initial soul charge, like if you're okay for soul and you don't need it, you can just give this guy power and recycle something like a trigger, for example. And because Akane can call Pongles from the deck, it gives you access to shuffling. You know, you actually shuffle the deck up again. So that trigger that you recycled could actually come back again, which is pretty cool. And just thought about it there, you know, if you're having a bit of an awkward situation with your Akanes and your Pongles, Dream Painter could recycle a Pongle back into your deck, and then Akane, like in your hand that could potentially have been dead, can then call that Pongle back out, and then you get more soul charges. So yeah, I really like Dream Painter. I think it works really well with this sort of like Alfred early Soul Server mixture. I really like it. Yeah, I just like I said, the deck build of this deck was just so interesting, and trying to figure out how the pieces go together was a really interesting concept when I was building it. So yeah, the next grade 1, of course, is for Pongle, of course, for your Akane. I'd say the best grade 1, you know, Dream Pit is good. I do like it, but Pongle is probably the best and most powerful card in this deck because of the fact that it can just simply outright soul charge you just by placing it, which is insane. I'll try and move that away from the glare. We'll put it over here. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, Pongle, solid card, goes with Akane, and yeah, I love it. So we'll go into the final 2 grade 1s. We have, yeah, this was a bit awkward for me because I didn't particularly know how many of these I wanted to run, but we have 2 copies of the new grade 1, Lucius. So this guy, he's kind of like the Gold Paladin card that came out. So his skill is that when a grade 3 or greater Vanguard is placed, you can put this card into your soul, and if you do, you draw a card, and then you call a card from your hand to rearguard. So again, it gives us that ability to call a unit with a skill. So that is pretty cool there. I'll just line that back up a bit. There we go. Now, the problem I have with Lucius is that it's very slow. You need to set this up prior, and then, you know, pre-plan it. But it's also very susceptible to retiring skills. So, like, if you're versing a deck like Kagero, for example, this card's probably just going to die all the time because, of course, they want to get rid of it so that you don't generate soul, and so that you're not gaining any sort of advantage on them. So, yeah, they're going to like try to stop you from generating soul as much as possible to stop that soul saver from going off. So, yeah, I do like Lucius, but I think 2 of him is okay. But the other reason is because I also wanted to play another grade 1, which you probably might know what it is. It's 2 copies of Alan, and Alan is a little bit better in my opinion, just because it's literally just a +1. You know, it's a counterblast 1, call something from your hand with equal or less grade than your Vanguard, and then draw a card. So it's another way for us to call something from a skill. So allows us to get that painter skill off consistently, but it also pluses us as well. You know, Lucius is a 1-for-1 because it goes into soul and then you draw, whereas Alan's actually a +1. And for a deck that particularly doesn't have a lot of draw power because we don't have things like Merrin in here, it's very clutch. And yes, we do have the Alfred Early and the Alan here that are like draw power cards, but Alfred Early's very, you know, it's not reliable, you know, because you do need that Blaster Blade to work with it in order to get that draw power going. And you also need to be riding it as well. So yeah, it's a little bit touch and go really with the draw power in here. So I kind of wanted to implement 2 Allens in here to sort of help with that. So that was my idea there. And also Alan does actually help us with that Blaster Blade rush that we're talking about, because it can become an 11k on the rearguard circle, which is good against grade 2 or grade 1 Vanguards, which is pretty cool. So moving on, we have the grade 0s. So we of course have Gleim. We have 8 criticals with the 4 Epelner, the 4 copies of Flogel. Now, this is the thing. I am still playing the same lineup that I usually do, which is the 4 draw and the 4 heal. But the thing is with this deck is that I'm actually thinking about taking out 2 criticals and then putting in 2 copies of the Margle draw trigger. You know, I've actually got some over here, and the idea was to take some crits out of the deck and put some more draws in, because we have a lot of things in here that like ask for different pieces, and a lot of things have like a partner sort of thing. So like Soul Silver works with Palamedes, Alfred Early works with Blaster Blade, Akana works with the Pongal. You know, the Dream Painter works with the Rendering Angel, the Allen, the Lucius. There's so many pieces that work with each other that I feel like the extra draw power would be very useful. But the cool thing with Margle as well is that if you do take 2 crits out, I'd actually advise taking out 2 Epilners, because remember that because you've got Akane in here, Flogel and Margle are more relevant because they're high beasts. So you can actually make 18k columns of them with the Akane if, you know, if push comes to shove sort of thing. If you need the extra aggro to make good column numbers, that's an option. So yeah, so you can put the 2 draws in if you want to by taking out 2 Epilners. That is an option you can do there. So yeah, it's up to you on that matter though. But I think that is something that I'm probably going to explore with this deck. But yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with this deck. I haven't played it a whole bunch, so yeah, this is more of a theory profile. But of the couple of games that I have played with it, it's quite linear, because of course you are just building towards Soul Save at the end of the day, and that's it. But I will say it's very enjoyable to get massive rearguard columns of things like Palamedes and just going ham. And also, I really like the synergistic plays with Alfred Early and Blaster Blade, and just the overall feel of the deck. It's a different take on Royal Paladin, and that's what I appreciate with this, is that we're not focusing on Blaster Blade as much, but it's still a toolkit card that we can abuse and use well. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the profile. So I hope you guys enjoyed this list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video in general. If you have any ideas to improve this deck, maybe, I'd love to hear your concepts and your thoughts. But yeah, this is my take on a Soul Saver deck. I know you could implement things like Esculpate in here, but I just wanted to purely focus around Soul Saver and just that strategy. But yeah, this is just my take on Soul Saver. So once again, guys, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. So take care, guys. See you later. Bye.